peace of mind when this old world seems to get me down.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the third and final segment of the Cajun Conservative Show today. As said in the earlier segments, we have Representative Alan Seabaugh, the Republican from District 5 here in Louisiana. He is joining us today as he talks about his run for state senate. Mr. Allen, how you doing, sir? And welcome to the Cajun Conservative Show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, always happy to have a good, strong conservative on the Cajun Conservative Show.
Glad to be here, and I like hanging out with folks that if you're going to call yourself a Cajun conservative and go on a podcast, then you're a friend of mine.
Hey. Well, we've been doing this for 2 years, and I made some local politicians mad already. So I guess I'm doing something right, like Moon. I use Moon for an example. He's not liked by a lot of people in Baton Rouge, so I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing,
Well, the roaches don't like it when you turn the light on. And Moon shines the light on what's actually happening in Baton Rouge. And, there's a lot of people that want to run for office and go to Baton Rouge and hope their constituents never find out what they do when they get there. And the more light that we can shine on that, the more we can expose that sort of attitude and behavior, the better off Louisiana is going to be.
Yes, sir. And especially Louisiana. I've said this on the podcast multiple times, talking about state legislation, because we reach all over. We don't just reach in Louisiana. We reach Texas, Alabama. We reach a lot of the South and a lot of the nation. And when especially out of my friends, I have a couple of friends that do podcasts, and they always tell me, Isaac, y'all are a red state. How do y'all have John Bel Edwards as y'all governor? And I look at him and say, unfortunately, we're a purple state. Because, Mr. Allen, as you know, a lot of our Republican representatives, they say they're Republican, they're standing up for conservative values, but unfortunately, they lean more to the left than John Bel Edwards. That's why John Bel Edwards gets everything he wants. And I call this state a purple state. We're red naturally, but we're not red in our state legislature.
Well, one of the reasons for that is people, to be perfectly honest, they're not honest with their constituents about who they are and what they're going to do when they get there. They run for office, they tell their constituents they're conservative, and they get to Baton Rouge and they're not. Like one of the things that I said one time, just kind of off the cuff, but I've repeated it since then because it made sense. Republicans I've been in the majority since I got elected. I got elected in the fall of 2010. When I was elected, the Democrats still had a majority in the state house. But by the time I was sworn in, Republicans were a majority because there were a couple of party switches. So Republicans have been in the majority in the entire 12 years that I've been there. We've never once been outvoted by Democrats, but we lose all the time because of rhinos and Republican pretenders, conservative pretenders who go side with the Democrats. And so conservative ideology, conservative bills, conservative legislation dies all the time. And bad liberal, progressive, woke legislation passes because rhinos who they want their constituents to believe that they're conservative. And if you ask them if they consider themselves conservative, they would be offended that you ask because of course they're conservative. And they vote with the Democrats and they vote with the progressives every time they get a chance.
Yeah, and even, prime example of that was the concealed carry bill that was coming, or the Second Amendment bill, where we had the votes to override John Bell's veto, but we had slimy Republicans come in and say, "Oh, well, we're not going to do that because we don't want to upset I guess you could say the establishment of Baton Rouge," and it hurts us.
That's right. Well, one of the senators that voted to sustain the veto, voted with John Bel Edwards to not override the veto, is the one that the district that I'm running for. Okay. I went and told him I was looking at running, and he announced that he was not going to seek re-election. So it's technically an open seat. He's not running again. But that is one of the reasons why I was originally getting in this race, because that vote alone, I think, would have prevented him from getting re-elected.
Oh, yeah. Well, good.
I've got a very rural North Louisiana district. There's a lot of guns and a lot of carriers up here. And that was a really, really bad vote politically for this neck of the woods. There's other parts of the state that maybe it wasn't such a bad vote. Some of the New Orleans area guys, I know Pat Connick voted to sustain the veto. He voted with John Bell. His district is not nearly as conservative as mine. So that, maybe that made sense to his constituents. It does not make sense in rural North Louisiana, I promise you. But that is a very good example. The other one was the women's sports bill.
Right.
The prevention of transgender athletes having, boys competing against girls in girls sports. It's blatantly unfair. And I really don't think it requires a lot of explanation. It's just pretty blatantly obvious that right is right and right is wrong. And that's one that is not hard to figure out. But yet we had Republicans voted to sustain the veto.
Yeah, and like you said, I even forgot about that. But just the fairness of women's sports in this state, Republicans don't go align with the what, like you said, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, and that's what gets me upset, Representative Allen. Is that we, it's sad that we are a state that, we have so much potential in our own. And look, I have the paperwork. I've been saying this and I've never done nothing with it. I'm probably going to stay a Republican, but it's sad as a Republican that I have to go ahead on this platform every so often and say Republicans did this or Republicans did that. Why our state, we just can't come together. Like you say, you're running for this seat. That's going to be a flip. I don't know if y'all planning on bringing these bills back. I would hope so. For the betterment of our state, but why can't our Republican Party of the state just come together and go for the common good, and we always have to fight each other?
Well, I agree with you. One of the issues that we have right now is there's a lot of us. I mean, we're one over 2/3 in the Senate, and we're one under 2/3 in the House. There's 69 Republicans in the House of Representatives. 70 is a 2/3 majority. We're 69 Republicans, and quite frankly, some of them are pretty liberal. Several of them were previously Democrats. Several of them really in their heart are Democrats.
Yep.
They just ran for office as Republicans because Democrat can't get elected in their district. My opponent that's running against me for the Senate seat has never been a Republican in his life until people talked him into running for Senate and told him he couldn't win if he was a Democrat or an independent. So he switched to Republican only to run for office. And that's the kind of thing that, when somebody does that, voters need to know, because that tells you a lot about a person. If you weren't a Republican until 2022, if you went through 2020 and went through 2016 and the Trump administration and everything John Bel Edwards has done, and you weren't a Republican, then you don't need to call yourself a conservative.
No, you're far from you're a rhino. You're a rhino, and we have a one state senator that is like that right now. Not state senator, a senator for the federal government that's like that right now. Says I'm a conservative and I do everything the conservatives want, but when you come to nuts and bolts about it, he has voted more with the left than he has done with the right, and that is scary. And look, don't get me wrong, Representative Allen. I understand you. If you get elected, you're going to have to work with the Democrat Party. There's no if, no and, buts about it. You have to, because unfortunately they're on the other side of the aisle and they're part of a political party. But I can understand changing a name of a post office, or I could see something real small. But when it comes to legislation on abortion, gun rights, fundamental conservative stuff, I would hope you would stand up and say, listen, hey, I'm stuck. I'm standing firm. I'm stuck in the mud with this. I'm not moving, and that's what I like. Trying to think of the senator of the House, the president of the House, Clay Chase Snyder. Yeah, he got into that position by saying, "Hey, I'm going to give y'all something," and it went over. That aggravates me as a citizen of Louisiana.
Yeah, look, I would never say I'm not going to work with Democrats. But working with Democrats does not ever mean compromising your traditional core values, ever. And look, if I have a Democrat mayor, I've had a Democrat mayor since I got elected. I work with him on projects in Shreveport all the time. If I have a Democrat mayor of one of the towns in my district that needs a sewer system or a water system or something that I, as a state senator, will be able to provide, I will 100% work with them, because that's my job and they're there and, they actually need it. But that's not compromising a core value. I will not work with anybody, Democrat, Independent, or even a liberal Republican who wants me to look the other way and let violent criminals out of jail, or any number of other things that violate core values. I'm not ever going to vote against gun rights. There's a lot of things that are core values that I hold that I hold here. I'm not going to vote for a tax increase. I mean, there's several things, there are lines that you just don't cross. Yes, work with the other side. Try to get it, negotiate and get the best deal you can. But if it crosses that line, you don't hit the green button. You hit the red button.
Yeah, you stop it right there, and you say, "Look, we're not moving forward with this because it goes against what we believe in and what we should do for the state of Louisiana."
That's right. I mean, Louisiana, by all intents and purposes, is a red state. We have one statewide elected official that's a Democrat. We've been red in federal elections for a couple of decades now. I think the people of Louisiana are intensely conservative. They just don't necessarily vote for Republicans. Sometimes on a state level, especially, they'll vote for John Bel Edwards over a David Vitter or an Eddie Rispone. And maybe they have their reasons they can justify that. I can't get past the policy. The Louisiana would be a very different state if John Bel Edwards had never been elected, and it would be much better in a lot of respects if John Bel Edwards had never been elected. And the quickest we can get in 2024 and start undoing some of the things that John Bel Edwards has crammed down our throat, the better. And we're going to be a better state after he leaves. It's just a matter of how quickly we can start reversing some of those policies and getting some of that stuff off the books, because he's really left a stream of destruction in his path. Because 7 years so far, and one counting, of John Bel Edwards as governor has really set Louisiana back about 20 years.
Yeah, it has set us back 20 years, and our state is strong. If you look at the numbers of the last census, unfortunately, we've had more people leave. We almost lost another congressman that can represent us. And look, just imagine, okay, that could have been Higgins, that could have been Scalise, that could have been any of them guys that we could have lost.
A congressman, it cost Jeff Landry a seat.
Yep.
That was a huge loss for the state of Louisiana in Congress. He's done a phenomenal job as Attorney General, and I'm supporting him for governor. And if he gets elected, we're going to start rolling the state back in the right direction very, very quickly. But the last time we lost one in 1990 census, we lost one in the 2010 census. So we're on pace to lose one every 20 years. We survived 2020. But looking at 2030, we may very well lose another one if we're not able to turn this around fairly quickly.
So you just mentioned the governor's race. Going into that, I like Jeff. We have John Snyder that's going to be running as well. We also had another Republican announced. Name slips me at the moment. First off, I think any of these three people will probably be better than John Bel Edwards.
Oh, there's no question. Hey, look, I said I'm supporting Jeff. John Schroeder's been a good treasurer. I served with him in the House. He would be immensely better than John Bel Edwards. So will Sharon Hewitt. From Slidell, from St. Tammany Parish. She's been a really good senator. I like her a lot. She's very intelligent. She would be leaps and bounds better than John Bel Edwards. But I'm supporting Jeff Landry because Jeff's been there in the fight. He's been in the trenches. I don't know where we would be without him. He's time and again blocked John Bel, his illegal executive orders. He's taken him to court time and time again and won just about all of them. And the funny thing, a lot of times he would lose in district court and the newspaper would report it, but it went up on appeal, and ultimately the AG's office won. We won most of those, because a lot of those I was a party as a legislator. We intervened in a lot of those lawsuits. We won almost all of them. Just about every time Jeff challenged John Bel, he ultimately won. But the media didn't report it after the district court because they didn't want people to know that we're chalking up victory after victory. But we did, and Jeff has done a phenomenal job, and he's earned my support.
Yeah, like I said, I like Jeff. I've always said if Jeff got in there, I would vote for him. Now, I know a lot of people might watch this. If you're a candidate for governor, if you want to come on. I'll gladly have y'all try to earn my vote, and let's get the Louisiana people to know all our Republican candidates. This is what I want to ask you, Representative Allen, is this though, because you're going in there, you're going from representative to state senator because your term limit. And I've heard great things about you, and I wanted to get you on because I want to see your view of the future. What do you plan? And one of them being this. The term limits that people have been asking about. We've had a lot of issues if Jeff or any other Republican win, and also, what if a Republican doesn't win? How do we stop the next Democrat governor from doing everything that John Bel Edwards has done to us the last 7 years plus one coming up?
Well, the way you stop a Democrat governor is you get 2/3 Republicans in both houses that are willing to override a veto. And you just start passing good legislation and overriding his veto. Eventually, he'll get the message. And again, I talked about the women's sports bill earlier. First time John Bel vetoed it, we were not able to override the veto, but we passed the bill again and got in a staring contest, and that time he blinked because it did go into law. So he didn't veto it the second time because he knew we had the votes. So, and we did override his veto on the congressional redistricting map. So we've asserted our authority and our independence a couple of times, not nearly as often as I would like. But a lot of times in the current structure, things don't get to the veto. His floor leaders in the House and Senate will go and say, this bill is going to get vetoed unless you accept my amendment. And that's how good legislation becomes mediocre, and mediocre legislation becomes really, really bad, is when you start accepting the governor's amendments on things as they go through. Because, from my perspective, from where I sit, he doesn't want to do anything that's good for Louisiana. He wants to do things that are good for John Bel Edwards and the people that put him there, and he does not have any interest in helping the state of Louisiana.
I agree with you 100%. I'm not saying he don't care about the state, but he cares more about him than he does about the state. That's my personal opinion on 100%. This. Representative Allen, I know you have a website for your Senate candidacy, and I know you're raising funds. Can you tell us how we can find your website and how we can go ahead and donate and help your campaign out to get good conservative leadership back into the legislation in Baton Rouge?
I appreciate that. Yeah, the website is simply my name, AlanSeabaugh.com, AlanSeabaugh.com. There's a place you can donate directly on there, and it also gives a physical address if you want to mail a check, or you can do a credit card or something directly online. I've been up and running. I started after redistricting in February. I started discussing it with people in March. I formally announced in June, and I've been running hard ever since June. And so we're ready to go. My district is 10 parishes. It's a very big district geographically. It's all of 2 parishes and parts of 8 other parishes. So it's a very, very big district geographically. Fortunately for me, it's where I'm from. My parents both grew up in the district. I grew up in Shreveport. I've been representing Caddo, and I've been very visible and active in Bossier politics for several years. And Red River Parish, Sabine Parish, Natchitoches Parish, Wynn Parish. That's where my parents grew up. That's where all my grandparents are buried. That's where my family is. So I'm very familiar with the district. I've lived here my entire life, and it's actually a dream of mine. I thought I was going to be running for Senate in Caddo and Bossier because that was the Senate district that I was in. And I was going to run for it, and I was going to do everything I could to get it. And that's fine because I grew up in Shreveport. It's where I went to school, and it's where I represented. But the fact that I actually might get a chance to represent Sabine Parish and Natchitoches Parish and Wynn Parish, which is where my grandparents are from and where my family's from, if I get a chance to represent those areas in the state Senate, that will absolutely be a dream come true. And I'll be the best senator they ever had.
I tell you one thing, my district, we have Blake Miguez running. So if you and Blake can get in there, we were waiting on Blake to come on this show. So I think y'all gonna be some good senators, and we're praying that y'all make it in to the Capitol because I see great things for y'all two guys. So.
I thank you for saying that. I hope so. I actually brought Blake a campaign check last weekend. So
hey.
I was in Lafayette for an event, and I brought Blake a check. So I encourage your other listeners to send Blake a check also. Blake's a great guy. He's been a great Republican leader in the House, a great conservative since he got there. His second year in the legislature, Blake was actually my seatmate. And that year, he got the award for most conservative legislator in the House. but he was my seatmate on the floor, so I was taking credit for his voting record. And then Mike Johnson, who's now the congressman, he said, wait, I was Blake's roommate, and he voted that way because of our talks when we got back to the apartment. So Mike and I have jokingly argued with each other for several years now, which one of us is responsible for Blake's conservative voting record. The fact of the matter is, all joking aside, Blake knows why he's a conservative, and he doesn't need any of us to convince him of anything. Blake knows what he's doing. He's a great conservative leader in the House, and you're right, we do need him in the Senate.
Yeah, Blake's a good man. I saw him at the Delcom Shrimp Festival. That's the first time I met him. And I was on a shrimp boat with my father-in-law, because my father-in-law has a shrimp boat and everything. And when I saw Blake, I said, I'm going to meet him. I made every attempt, and I got to it. So, Blake's a good guy, got his number. We talk every so often, so.
Yeah, Blake's a good guy. And there's several other races around the state where we have Republicans looking to replace Democrats or conservatives looking to replace moderates. That a significant step up in representation. There's several around the state. So we can not necessarily increase the number of Republicans in the Senate, but we can increase the conservatism. We can increase the quality of the Republicans that we do have. And that's really what we need to start moving this state forward.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Allen, thank you again for coming on, Representative Allen Seabaugh. Hey, I want to tell you, if you're ever in Lafayette and you want to come on, hey, give me a call. I will set up a seat right here, right on the side of me, so we can go ahead and continue our conversation. Hope you come back on the show as well, though. We love having you guys.
I appreciate you. I'm actually down there all the time. My wife is from Evangeline Parish.
So okay.
I'm in the area all the time.
Well, let's set something up. Let's set something up if we can be in studio next time. How about that?
I'm glad to do it. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you, sir. That was Representative Allen Seabaugh from Shreveport in District 5. He's running for state senator. If you're around those areas, please go ahead and vote for him. He is a great conservative, and he's going to go ahead and get the job done in Baton Rouge. And let's pray that Jeff Landry and we gets in there, and we have all kind of other people get in there as well to help us out. With that being said, we want to thank you for listening to the Cajun Conservative Show. Remember, Jesus Christ is King, and he's coming back. And he's coming back real soon. So don't be faint of heart, because Jesus has overcome the world. If you want to know Jesus, your personal Lord and Savior, reach out to me. I will tell you how to make Jesus your Savior and heaven your home. So until next time, be blessed, be encouraged. You have a good one.
And he is the open door. He said that Jesus Christ has risen. And he is the open door.